journey today, kind of a long journey, just walking and walking and walking. Are you up for that? I've been reading the book of Joshua in the Bible, and they just go walking a lot. Come on, come with me. And they're walking, and they're just going along their life, and I mean, they just keep walking and walking. Do you know how long they walk? Hey, come with me, come on, we walk together. Come on, come on, come on. But I like that one in between the kids. You know how long they walked? How long have we walked so far? Have we walked 40 years yet? Are you tired already? You need to take a nap or something? Okay, so they're walking along, they walk. Hey, where are you going? You're a good part of the story because wait for us right there. Wait for us right there. Wait, stop. Okay, so they're walking along for 40 years, and guess what? Also, no, stop walking just for a second. Come here for a second. Come here for a second. So, they come up, and there's this huge river, and it's flooded. And they realize that they need to get across the river. And so, God does this amazing thing. He stops the river. He separates the river. It's flooded, but he stops it. He separates it, and the ground is dry. And they walk across on dry ground. And when they get to the other side, they put these rocks down in a little rock pile, and it's a monument to God. Now, ironically, how amazing is this? There are 3 rocks in this rock pile. One for you, one for you, one for you. I know. And this is a rock pile. You got to get this part down. This is a rock pile to God's goodness. So let's say rock pile to God's goodness. Can you do that? Rock pile to God's goodness. Very good, very good. And then we walk somewhere. Now we have to stay together because we have to take a specific path. All right, you ready? Ready? So they just keep walking, and they cross, and guess what they do? They make another rock pile just like that one. All right? Now, the first rock pile was a rock pile to God's goodness. Ooh, that's a nice sparkly rock. The second rock pile is a rock pile to sin. All right, so on the count of 3, say rock pile to sin, right? 1, 2, 3. Rock pile to sin. What was the first one? Rock pile to... No, the second one's a rock pile to sin. The first one's a rock pile to God's goodness. And then they start walking some more, and they walk some more, and they go. They're just going all over the place, and they walk some more. They're going everywhere, and things are great. I don't know where we're going, but look, we're back. We're back, and here we are. And they come up, and they come to another place, and they attack another city, and they almost lose. But once they win, they make yet another rock pile. And this rock pile is a rock pile to winning. Because there was this enemy that defeated them, and they ended up winning the war. So this is a rock pile to winning. I know. You ready to say rock pile to winning? 1, 2, 3. Rock pile to... Good, very good. Now let's see how we're doing. What was the first rock pile to? God's goodness, very good. And the second rock pile was rock pile to sin, very good. And the third rock pile is rock pile to winning. Winning. Now, all right, now come back over by the treasure chest. Now, ladies, I like this. So if you want to keep your rocks, you can keep your rocks. Or if you want to get rid of 2 of them and keep 1, that's fine. If you don't want one of your rocks or all your rocks, you can put them in there. But I got to tell you something. You want a sparkly one? Well, be careful reaching down in there to find a sparkly one. But help yourself. You can dig down through them. But listen, they're going to put up 1 more rock pile. And this time, it's not going to be a bunch of rocks. It's going to be 1 rock. And that 1 rock is to remind them of all the rocks. You find any sparkly one yet? Find a good one? Oh, is that sparkly? Yeah, it's sparkly on this end. I got it. You got a new one. All right, now, this last rock pile isn't going to be a pile. It's going to be 1 rock. And you know what it's a rock pile to? It's a rock pile to all the rock piles. It's a rock pile that is their story. It is their Jesus story. Of all these things God has done, all summed up into one. And they have this 1 rock. And it reminded them that Jesus was in their lives. So, you guys have rocks. You can take them home if you want to. Maybe put it on your dresser or someplace. And it'll be a reminder. I know it sounds silly, doesn't it? But they made rock piles. Why can't we put a rock on our dresser to remind us that Jesus is in our lives? You're going home with us? All right, can I pray with us? You going to put that down? No, you take it home. All right, let me pray for you. Jesus, when these girls see these rocks, will you help them to remember that the God of the church, and help that to remind them that you, Jesus, are in their lives. Thank you for being in our lives. We pray in your name. See you, ladies.
See you.
Thank you. This book right here, called A Severe Mercy by Sheldon Vanauken, is the first book that I ever read and cried over. I was 18 years old. I wasn't much of a reader. I think I only read 3 books in high school, 2 of them for extra credit, because I had a C in English, and I knew I'd get killed for a C in any class at school, so teacher let me read 2 short books and do a book report. But I read this one all on my own. This is it's an autobiography of a young couple, Sheldon Vanauken, the author, and his wife, Jean Davis, who he calls Davy. And it tells about how they fell in love and how they had this incredible romantic relationship. And they described themselves as total pagans. They didn't believe in God. They had no need for God. They had grown up with some wealth, so they didn't need God for money, and they were very happy in their education, so they didn't need God for intelligence. And it's just a story of them falling in love, and the relationship they created together was just phenomenal. But eventually, in their life journey, they get to a point in life where they start to ask questions about the bigger picture. And they start to wonder, is there a God in the universe? And if so, what form is he? Or what does he take? And what does he expect? And can we get to know him? And they're intellectuals, so they start reading everything they can find. And they stumble onto this author who was current to them, a guy by the name of C.S. Lewis from England. Have any of you read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Chronicles of Narnia, C.S. Lewis? Anybody know C.S. Lewis? All right. Well, Clive Staples was a professor at Oxford, and he was writing a lot about Christianity. He's a strong theologian for Christianity and a great scholar, and he was writing currently when they were doing their search. They read every book he ever wrote, and then they were so compelled by what he was saying in his books that they got pen and paper out and they wrote him a letter. And they end up being friends with C.S. Lewis. And they end up coming to faith in the Lord Jesus. And this is their story. Now, I told you at the beginning, this is the first book that ever made me cry, and I'm not telling you why. Their Jesus story is contained in the pages of this book. And what's ironic is, when I read this book as an 18-year-old, their Jesus story became part of my Jesus story. I was so taken by this book that when I met Linda and we started to fall in love and we started dating, I said, you have to read this book. You've got to read this book. I will now say, 31 years later, I've never read another book that tells me more about how marriage should be than this autobiography of Sheldon and Davy's love. It's just absolutely phenomenal and governs how I run my marriage now. Even though it's not a how-to book, it's just an autobiography of their love. We've been talking for the last 3 weeks about your Jesus story, and we've been looking at Joshua chapter 24. And in Joshua chapter 24, find your way to Joshua chapter 24, we've been talking about how at the end of Joshua's life, he calls the nation of Israel together, and he reminds them of their Jesus story. Now, if you haven't been here for a couple of weeks, we have a handful of visitors this morning. Your Jesus story is a look backwards. If you look back, and I advise you to look back an entire generation, look back at all the things that God did. Your grandparents falling in love, marrying, producing your parents or one of your parents, and then the other set of grandparents, the other parent, and now your parents somehow meeting and falling in love and coming together and producing you. And then every moment of your life up to this point that led you to this point. That's your Jesus story. Why are you here? It's September 29th, 2013, and you're here, and you're sitting where you're sitting, and you're sitting next to the person you're sitting next to, and you're listening to part 3 of a 3-part sermon series on your Jesus story. What got you here? That's your Jesus story. So we've been looking at this for the past couple of weeks, and I just want to take us back and catch us up. If you're now in Joshua chapter 24, let's just pick it up halfway through the story in verse 11. Then you crossed the Jordan and you came to Jericho. The citizens of Jericho fought against you, as did the Amorites, Perizzites, Canaanites, Hittites, Girgashites, Hivites, Jebusites, but I gave them into your hands. I sent the hornet ahead of you, which drove them out before you, and also the 2 Amorite kings. You did not do it with your own sword and bow. So I gave you a land on which you did not toil, and cities you did not build, and you live in them, and you eat from vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. That's all of their Jesus story, ending up with verse 13 where he says, and now you're sitting where you're sitting right now. You are where you are right now because of 500 years of history. I have this very complicated matrix to get you right now where you are right now. That's verse 13. And then he gets to verse 14 and he goes, so what are you going to do about it? And it comes up to verse 14 and it says this. Now because of your Jesus story, fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods your forefathers worshipped beyond the river and in Egypt and serve the Lord. And that's where we landed last week. We said, oh my goodness, if you will really take a look backwards at the complicated matrix that God has been working on since the foundation of the world to get you to where you are right now, hearing these words from Joshua 24 right now, then your reaction has to be, oh my goodness, I fear God. Not fear as in tremble because he's so mean, although that might be appropriate at times, but fear him as in, oh my goodness, you are so complicated. You are so above me, you're so beyond me, and you got me here. Oh my goodness, I respect that. I fear that. I reverence that. You fear the Lord, verse 14. You serve him. Oh, can I please sign up for something? Can I do something? Can I use my talents for the kind of God who has been working on this complicated matrix to get me to stand here this morning? Can I serve? Can I do something to thank him for that? And then he says in verse 14, and get rid of those foreign gods you guys still have. Push away all the impediments to walking faithfully with God. You got to get rid of those things. But you know what? That's just Joshua's advice to them. He can't make them do any of that. In fact, he bears that out if you keep reading in verse 15. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourself this day whom you shall serve, whether the gods of your forefathers or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we're going to fear the Lord. We're going to serve the Lord. All right, so he says, look, if you can really realize, if you can look back 500 years and realize that God has been working on something to get you here, right now, today, if you can look at all that and you can still say, yeah, whatever, then you go serve whatever God you want to. You just bow down and worship anything you want to because you don't get it yet. But it's your choice. It all comes down to, it's your choice. You look at that matrix that God's been working on. If you aren't blown away by that, okay. But as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. I love the reaction of the Israelites. And they had to stand up. If they were sitting down, they're standing up now because they start talking again in verse 16. The people answered Joshua, far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods! Exclamation point. It was the Lord our God himself who brought us and our forefathers out of Egypt from the land of slavery and performed those great signs before our eyes. He protected us on our entire journey and among all the nations through which we traveled. And the Lord drove out before us all the nations, including the Amorites who lived in the land. We too will serve the Lord because he is our God. Do you realize what they just did to Joshua? They said, now Joshua, you just be quiet for a minute, because we want to tell you our Jesus story. And they just told him their Jesus story. And then they ended on a very important conclusion. And the whole conclusion rests on one pronoun. Sorry, I'm an English teacher, so I notice these things. After they tell their Jesus story to Joshua, then they end with the last part of verse 18. We too will serve the Lord because he is our God. It's really interesting that they use that pronoun. We too will serve the Lord because he's your God. No. We too will serve the Lord because he's the God of our father Abraham and Isaac. No. We too will serve the Lord because he is our God. And at that point, they owned it. They get it. They've looked at this complicated history that God's been working on to get them standing here right now, and they say, sign me up. That's my God I'm going to serve. I love that. Joshua says, oh boy, you guys, you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know what you're getting into because this is serious business. When you commit to serve God, you are making a lifetime commitment here. And so I'm just going to tell you, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do this lightly. Let me read a little bit more starting in verse 19. Joshua said to the people, you are not able to serve the Lord. He is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your rebellion and your sins. If you forsake the Lord and you serve foreign gods, and he will turn away and he will bring disaster on you and make an end of you after he has been good to you. But the people said to Joshua, no, we will serve the Lord. Then Joshua said, you are witnesses against yourselves that you have chosen to serve the Lord. Yes, we are witnesses, they replied. Now then, Joshua said, throw away the foreign gods that are among you and yield your hearts to the Lord, the God of Israel. And the people said to Joshua, we will serve the Lord and we will obey him. And on that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people and there at Shechem. He drew up before them decrees and laws, and he recorded these things in the book of the law of God. Then he took a large stone, and he set it up under the oak near the holy place of the Lord. See, he said to the people, this stone will be a witness against us. It has heard all of the words that the Lord has said to us. It will be a witness against you if you are untrue to your God. Do you see what Joshua just did? He pointed to a big rock. I couldn't lift a big rock, so I just brought a bucket of little rocks. Joshua points to this huge rock, and he goes, you see that rock there? That rock heard what you just said. That rock heard you say, this is my Jesus story. And I'm going to make God our God. He's going to be mine. I'm going to own him, and I'm going to serve him faithful. That rock just heard you say that. And if you stray from this commitment, that rock is going to start talking. That's kind of scary, is it? I mean, a rock talking, yes, if a rock actually had a mouth and it started talking, that might freak you out a little bit. But you know what? We do this all the time. I wear a wedding ring. I put that wedding ring on the day I married Linda, and it doesn't come off. When I had my knee surgery, they said, oh, you got to take off your jewelry. I said, not a chance. Put a piece of tape on it. It'll be just fine. And I kept my wedding ring on. I don't take it off to wash my hands. Just scoot a little bit, wash behind it, make sure it's still on there. That wedding ring stays on, and you know what it is. It's a marker. It's a reminder of my commitment. It says to all the women in the world, off limits, off limits. And it's a reminder to me, that's my woman. That's the lady I committed my life to. It's a visual reminder. Oh, we do it over there and over there. I love driving through towns when they have American flags all over the place. Do you forget what country you're in if they don't put up American flags? Do you forget where your loyalty lies if they don't have American flags flying? No. They're visual reminders of your loyalty. We do it in the cemetery too. We put stone markers and we engrave them so they will not, the names and dates will not wash away. We do these markers all the time to remind us of those we love and where our loyalties are. And Joshua just did it with a big boulder rock, and he goes, that rock is going to speak to you. Did he mean speak to you? Or did he mean that rock will be a visual reminder to you? That you said, he is our God. I own my faith. And he goes, yep, and that rock just heard you. I'm a school teacher. I like giving out homework. And I'm a school teacher, and I like collecting homework, and I like giving students credit for the work they've done. The funny thing is about my weekend work, I don't have a grade book with your names in it. But I'm going to urge you one more time. Write out your Jesus story. Think backwards, a whole generation to your grandparents. What did God do? What is the complicated matrix he's been working on so that on September 29th, 2013, you were here? What did God do to get you here? And as soon as you do that, I would urge you with this. How can you do anything but say, I fear God? I respect God because he is so complicated. How did he get that whole matrix to work? And your matrix intersects with my matrix. I mean, we're here together, and how did God get that to work? Man, you got to reverence a God like that. And And then you got to sign up. Let me use my talent for Almighty God, because He is that kind of God. He wants me to be on His team. I think that's great. And then start looking at the little impediments in your life. For the Israelites, they were worshiping other gods as well. They're trying to have the feet of both worlds. And He said, no, you can't do that. Start asking yourself, God, what is it in my life that's holding me back from total commitment to You? And get rid of those things. But I'm going to urge you, as I urge myself, with one more thing. I need something visual. We have American flags, we have wedding rings, we have grave markers, we have a lot of visual things in all the areas of our lives, and they speak to us about our commitments and our loyalties. But what visual demonstration do we have that says, I belong to Jesus, He is my God? I look around my house and I ask myself the question, do I have anything? Oh, I have my Bible. Not good enough. That's not good enough. Do I have anything visual? I can wear a big cross around the neck. I could order from that catalog one of those weird-looking collars that sometimes ministers wear. No, that's not going to cut it either. Do you have anything visual that will be the witness, that will start reminding you visually? You said you belong to God. That's great. We need those visual reminders. May God add His blessing to the reading and explanation